Welcome to our daily shir, and today we're going to be talking about Parsha Tazria, which is our parsha, and also we'll speak about the connection to humans in general and impurity, and also the potential that each and every one of us has. We spoke about a bit last week about the potential of the neshama, whether the neshama needs to come down to this world physically or not. And Beis Shammai hold that the neshama has the potential to overcome anything, and therefore, in that case, it doesn't even need to enter the world. But here we are going to be discussing impurity of humans, where this is basically the topic of our parsha. Our parsha talks all about impurity of human beings. So it says that when it comes to all these dinim of for example, when a woman gives birth, so when she gives birth, she brings new life to the world. And in that case, she becomes impure for a while. And there's a difference between whether the newborn is a boy or a girl. If the newborn is a boy, in that case, she is impure for a short amount of time. But if the newborn is a girl, then in that case, she's impure for a bit longer. And this is basically a general lesson to us, that when it comes to bringing new life to the world, when it comes to adding to the world, so we've always got to be humble. We've always, what's called in the words of Kabbalah, we've got to take a step back. And this is something that we can see in many, many cases. For example, when Am Yisrael came towards Matan Torah, to receive the Torah, they were there to receive the Torah from Hashem. They were not allowed to come close to the mountain. You've got to stay a bit away. In order to really lift, get this lift up, receiving the Torah, for example, you've got to make sure to come prepared. So when, in that case, there's a step back that we take, and if it's a boy, it's a short amount of time, and if it's a girl that's born, so it's a bit longer. And why? Because again, when a girl is born, she is the one that will be able in the future to give birth to another generation. And that's why it's even a higher level and a higher creation in a certain way that that we face, and therefore the woman that gave birth, she is impure for a bit longer. Why? This is because of the fact that there's new life here in the world, that there's and then there's a new life. It could be even a new life and a potential for more lives to come from that child, again, if it's a girl. So this is a general concept. And here, there's another idea that we can see about being humble. And this is the difference between the impurity of humans and the impurity of animals. The parsha begins, last week we learned about the impurity of animals. And this is Parsha Shmini, which animals are considered kosher, which animals are considered not to be kosher. And our parsha that comes after that parsha talks about impurity of humans. And the question is why? It should be that the impurity of humans, all the laws become pure, etc., those should all start, those should all, the Torah should begin with those laws. The Torah should first tell us that the laws of a person becoming impure and then becoming pure, why is it the opposite direction? Why is it the opposite way? And this is another stage where we say that whenever we approach something special, we've got to take a step back. We've got to take a step back and we've got to think to ourselves in a humble way about this great experience or about this great level that we are about to approach, and we've got to wait. And when it comes to humans, as it says in Tanya, first of all, we've got to respect the creatures of Hashem that He created around the world. So that's first of all where we give a bit, for example, Bereshis, the story of the creation of the world. Hashem began creating not humans, but He started with the animals. He started with the plants, the trees, the sky, the moon, the stars, everything but humans. So first of all, what we learn from that is that we've got to be humble. Not only that we've got to be humble, but also that in potential, we can end up lost. We have the ability to be higher than the stars, which means to achieve high levels, to add to the world, to bring light to the world, and not only physical light like the stars and the sun and the moon, but to bring spiritual light to the world. And this spiritual light is something that's way higher than any other animal can bring. But we've got the potential of doing bad. And this is where we are worse than animals. This is where the human being has a potential to be destructive. This is where a human being has the ability to be cruel for the sake of being cruel. An animal, even a lion, that goes and hunts a sheep, he's not doing it because he's cruel. That's just the way that he was created. That's the way his mechanism works. But he's not doing it in order to be cruel to the animal in the first place. And for that reason, we cannot blame him for his nature, because that's his nature. Human beings, however, our nature isn't to be cruel, isn't to eat our people around us, to eat them alive. That's not the human nature. And that's why if someone chooses to be cruel, to do something bad that he shouldn't do, that's being worse than an animal, because we have the choice, because we were not created in that way. And that's why in the words of Chazal, there's a famous expression, afilu yatush kadamach. Afilu yatush kadamach means that that even a mosquito was born before us. Now, a mosquito is not a productive animal. A mosquito, maybe there are certain things that it can help with, but generally speaking, a mosquito only takes blood, doesn't give anything to anyone else around. Other animals, other species, other creatures that Hashem created in the world have a nature where they also take, but they also give. It's not only about receiving, but it's also giving to others. And one of the only animals that only receives and does not give back is a mosquito. And Hashem tells us the mosquito was born before you. The mosquito was born before you, and that represents the idea that a human being with his great potential sometimes can also fall down. Sometimes he can also, with his free choice that he has, he can also be worse than any other animal. And this is the lesson that Hashem is teaching us. Hashem taught us this right when he created the world, and he's teaching us once again. He's teaching us to talk about the laws of kosher, what's not kosher, the laws of impurity and how to become pure, of course. So Hashem says, you know what? I'm going to start with the laws of the impurity that has to do with animals, that has to do with birds, because those creatures, they are impure, not by choice, not because they decided to behave bad. As we read in the previous Parsha, they were born that way. It's or you are a type that is kosher or you aren't. Right? With all the signs that the Torah brings. Fish. And with birds, it's even more complicated. So they were born in that way. They were designed in that way. And afterwards comes the Parsha that talks about the impurity of humans. And there, when we talk about the impurity of humans, we are, idea is that we are after the animals. So this is just a general outlook and overview on our parsha. Just knowing these laws of impurity is very important. And it's also the message that applies to each and every one. But on the other hand, we've got also a potential to do bad. And that's something that we've got to make sure that it's only used for the good. Okay, so this was a short share today. And we'll continue Be'ezrat Hashem next week. And I want to wish you all a Shavua Tov. And we're coming up to Rosh Chodesh Nisan, we're coming up to Pesach. So all the preparations should go well. Shavua Tov.